Hi guys, welcome back to Lex Alexa's. Major apologies for being absent for a week. The international break came round at a bit of a sticky time for me. It was my birthday week and it was also my birthday on transfer deadline day. Did have some things planned, but things got in the way, and ultimately I'm going to do this video today, and I'm hopefully going to find some time during the week to review all of the transfers that have happened in the past 2 weeks, and I am going to eventually give you my thoughts of every single championship team's transfer window by doing a grading system. So that is to come. Major apologies again guys for not being on the channel for a while now. It's been quite hectic, but we are officially back, and with this week resuming EFL football for the Championship and the Premier League, I thought it'd be a good opportunity to actually look back at what I predicted the Championship table would be after 4 games. You may remember I did a video 2 months ago before the season started where I got the table calculator and I decided to predict the first 4 game weeks, knowing we were going to have an international break, which we're currently having right now. And I'm going to use this time to look back at what predictions I had. I'm going to compare them to my official predictions that I'll be doing on a weekly basis on my weekly score predictions. And then we're going to see the actual results, and we're going to compare and contrast to see if I've actually done a better job at predicting the Championship 2 months ago to what I have been doing on a week by week basis. And after that reaction, we're going to look at what the tables would have been with all of our predictions, and we're going to predict the next 5 game weeks, because we have 5 game weeks before we get another international break, believe it or not. So we're going to have 2 international breaks by only having 9 games in the Championship. Seems very, very ludicrous to me, but that is how they've structured it. So I do realise I'm waffling here. If you guys like what you see, please smash the like button. It really does help the growth of this channel. If we can get 20 likes, it'll be amazing. The subscriber getting this channel out today is Richard Taverner. Thank you for recently subscribing to the channel. If you do subscribe to the channel, it's very likely your name will be shouted out in the next video. If you could also share the channel too, all of that really does help. But without any further ado, let's look back at the video I made 2 months ago and see what job I did in predicting the Championship table. So here we go guys, I've really left it on a very awful shot. I mean, what am I doing here? But this was my game week 1 predictions for the Championship 2 months ago. It officially was 2 months ago. Really only had the strength of the squad going into the day of recording. So let's see what I predicted. I predicted Birmingham to beat Ipswich by 2-1. Obviously that did not happen in the end. I predicted 1-0 Charlton, and that was an actual result against Watford. Of course, a last minute goal from Dibbling, Of course, a last minute goal from Harvey Nibbs. Coventry and Hull, I predicted 2-1. That didn't happen. In fact, that was a 0-0 draw, actually. Southampton and Wrexham, I predicted 4-2. Predicted goals, but I doubled both of the goals. I needed to half the goals, and it would have been an absolute spot-on prediction. Middlesbrough Swansea went for a draw. It actually ended 1-0 Middlesbrough, but a low-quality game. Norwich and Millwall, it ended 2-1 Millwall. I don't think many would have predicted that, actually. Oxford and Portsmouth, I went for a scoring draw. It actually ended up as a 1-0 away win to Portsmouth, of course. Queen's Park Rangers and Preston, I went for a Queen's Park Rangers win. I was quite hot on them at the start of the season, but it actually ended up as a draw. Stoke and Derby, 0-0 draw. That is certainly wrong, because Stoke smashed Derby at the start of the season by 3-1. West Brom and Blackburn, correct outcome, but not correct scoreline. It ended 1-0 West Brom in the end. Sheffield United and Bristol City, I mean, I got this one very wrong. I went for a very convincing 2-0 win to Sheffield United, and look what happened. It ended up 4-1 to Bristol City. I mean, that is just the unpredictability settling into the Championship. And then, obviously, it looks very bad now, but I predicted Leicester 4, Sheffield Wednesday 0. That did not happen at all. And in fact, Sheffield Wednesday had an unbelievable fight back, took the lead actually for a good portion of that game as well, and it ended up as a 2-1 win to Leicester. So yeah, I say the big up for these predictions is actually correctly predicting the Charlton score from 2 months before the game had even begun. So these guys are my predictions for game week 1. I went for 2-1 Birmingham against Ipswich, and you can actually see if we go back, it did. You know, I did also predict the same, 2-1 Birmingham. And I feel like what we're going to see is that maybe this game week 1 predictions might be quite close to the predictions I made from 2 months ago. But the further we go along, the more different they're going to be, I think. But look at that, Charlton 1, Watford 2. Oh dear me, I should have listened to my old self because I was onto it. Oh dear, I didn't obviously see Charlton winning that one at the time. Coventry Hull, I went for a draw. Now that was different. I predicted a Coventry win 2 months ago. It actually was a draw, but just not the correct score. Southampton Wrexham, I actually went for a more comfortable win for Southampton. Didn't turn out to be the case, but it was still the correct outcome. Middlesbrough Swansea, I actually went for a Middlesbrough win this time, and obviously I drew this game in terms of my early predictions, so that was correct but wrong score. Norwich Millwall, now I went for a draw first time around, and I actually went for a Norwich win this time around, so wrong on both counts, and that's pretty much as wrong as you can get to have 2 attempts to predict this game, and both outcomes are not even close to what happened. Oxford and Portsmouth, again, couldn't be more wrong. Oxford 2, Portsmouth 1. I mean, Oxford, I felt played actually quite well in that game, and I think on another day they could have actually won by that scoreline, but it just wasn't falling for them. It was Portsmouth that picked up the win in the end. And then Queen's Park Rangers, Preston. I stuck with a Queen's Park Rangers win, but a bit more of a comfortable win. But again, wrong. Stoke Derby was also a game I actually predicted and I agreed with in terms of my early predictions. So Birmingham, Ipswich and Stoke and Derby are standing out as 2 games that I actually stuck with in terms of my early predictions. Both didn't pay off and both got me 0 points, nil points. So not really the best signs there. West Brom and Blackburn, I correctly predicted not only the outcome but the score. That's actually the first correct score prediction I have got. So give myself a small pat on the back for that one, because not everyone predicted that scoreline for that game, but I had a feeling with the squad that Ryan Mason had, I thought he was going to start the championship well. Sheffield United and Bristol City. I still backed a Sheffield United win, and yeah, that did not happen. It was a Bristol City masterclass, and Leicester City 5, Sheffield Wednesday 0. Even more of a disrespect to Sheffield Wednesday in the end, and in the end, I probably should have given them more respect, and it would have likely given me more points. So, looking at this, some of these scores actually do match the ones I made from months ago, but quite a few major changes. I mean, the Charlton one stands out. I actually had it in the bag that early on, and then I completely flipped the script, and as a result, got no points out of it. And I think what that proves is just sometimes when you're doing these predictions, the more you know, the less well you're going to do because you overthink things. And I think that at the time was me just kind of going with my gut instinct. And I think I would have got similar amount of points actually using these predictions than my official ones. So yeah, quite an interesting start for me there. So now we've jumped ahead and we have gone to game week 2. Okay. A couple of these predictions do stand out, and I know it's not in kickoff order. It would have been alphabetical. You know, that's how long ago I was doing these predictions. Blackburn Birmingham didn't end up as a draw. It could have been a draw if Birmingham didn't score that late goal, but it was close, but not quite from me. Bristol City 2, Charlton 1. That did not happen. It ended up as a 0-0 draw. Derby Coventry, I mean, that's very wrong, isn't it? I actually predicted a Derby win, not a 5-3 away victory to Coventry. I mean, who was going to predict that? Who on this planet was going to predict that? What an unbelievable scoreline that was. Hull and Oxford, I actually went for an Oxford narrow win, but it ended up actually as a pretty dramatic free scoring 3-2 win to Hull. Did not see that by the looks of things. I looked at that probably thinking it was going to be a low scoring game. Ipswich 2, Southampton 1. probably in a balance of play, that should have been what the scoreline was, but it ended up as a draw, and it's just been very wasteful again going forward. Millwall and Middlesbrough, I compromised on a 1-1 draw, and again, the disrespect to Middlesbrough. I'm going to really dread seeing what table I've done, because I've already, by the looks of things, have really been harsh on Middlesbrough and Stoke. So they are going to be way lower than what they officially are at this moment of time. So I'm a bit nervous about that. Portsmouth 2, Norwich 1, that's wrong. It was actually Norwich who picked up their first away win of the season. Leicester with a 2-1 win, that's wrong. It was Preston who picked up the 2-1 win that time. Sheffield Wednesday and Stoke, it ended up 3-0 Stoke, I think. So, yeah, quite a bit wrong there. Swansea managed to pick up the win against Sheffield United, that was wrong. And then with Watford, Queen's Park Rangers, 2-2. That's actually not too far off, but it was Watford who managed to pick up the win in the end, winning by 2-1. And then Wrexham and West Brom, it ended up, was it 3-2 to West Brom it was? So I currently predicted there'd be loads of goals. But yeah, obviously I should have edged one. I didn't. I sat on the fence and yeah, it didn't pay off. Oh my gosh, this would actually score 0 points if I actually did a prediction. I mean, that's probably what we should be expecting. We should expect these sorts of results to not even go anywhere near what the official scores was. But let's hold our horses. This is what I officially predicted, and I've already made the major mistake. The first 3 predictions you see were were from the games I predicted 2 months ago. 1-0 Derby, 2-1 Portsmouth, and 2-2 Wrexham. Those 3 were wrong. So, no surprise, 0 points from those 3 games. I correctly predicted Birmingham to win this time around, so that's a point gained from that, but wrong score. Bristol City Charlton was also what I said 2 months ago. That was wrong, so no points. Millwall, Middlesbrough, so it gets worse for Middlesbrough. I predicted a draw. I actually predicted a defeat for them this time around, and yeah, they won very comfortably. By scoreline at least. Preston and Leicester, I went for a 1-1 draw, so I was leaning more towards Preston giving something in that game. That's probably the major improvement I would say that I've made, but not brave enough because it was Preston that actually beat Leicester, so I didn't stick with that. Sheffield Wednesday and Stoke, definitely a major improvement there, but not the correct score. I needed 1 more goal for it to be a spot on result. Swansea, Sheffield United, an improvement again, but again, not quite the result I needed. I needed a Swansea win to back them, and I didn't. Watford and Queen's Park Rangers, I also went for a draw like I did last time, but less goals. Should have been a Watford win. Ipswich, Southampton, I was very pessimistic on Ipswich. They actually did get a draw against Southampton and probably should have won the game on the balance of play. And then Hull and Oxford, I then just flipped the scores and gave the win to Hull, which, correct outcome, but again, incorrect scores. It just goes to show that no matter how far or how close you are to the games, you have as equal opportunity of doing as well. So I just think that's a very interesting way to look at the mental side of things and the statistics of what we're actually predicting. So 2 game weeks down, we've got game week 3 and game week 4 left to compare. So these are the predictions I made, 2 months ago. Birmingham 3, Oxford 1. Not quite same score, but it was the correct outcome. Charlton 1, Leicester 1. So I was onto something. I was expecting Charlton to make it difficult for Leicester, but obviously in the end it was Leicester who won very narrowly. Coventry, QPR. So yeah, correct outcome, but it shouldn't really because it ended 7-1 to Coventry. Again, who would have predicted Coventry to score 7 in a game? I don't think many would have. Derby 1, but Bristol City 2. So it ended up as a draw, actually. A bit of a disappointing result for Bristol City in the balance of play. They led for most of that game. Hull 2, Blackburn 0. That is very wrong because it was Blackburn who won by 3-0. There was a bit of a sickness bug in that Hull City camp at the time, so I did think that affected the ability and the availability of the players that they could have brought in. Norwich 2, Middlesbrough 1. Oh my gosh, again, lots of Middlesbrough slander. This is really making me nervous. I feel like at the moment I've got Middlesbrough rock bottom of this table at this moment. Preston 0, Ipswich 2. Again, very wrong. It was Preston who won, not Ipswich. Sheffield United 1, Millwall 1. So I correctly predicted Sheffield United to drop points at home. But yeah, I wasn't brave enough to predict they would lose all 3 points. So yeah, Millwall managed to beat them again at Bramall Lane by 1-0. Southampton 2, Stoke 0. Not right, it was actually Stoke that one. So again, I'm very nervous of where I put Stoke in this table. Swansea 1, Watford 1. I actually think that's a correct result, actually. Yeah, I think it did end 1-1 between those two sides. So, quite amazing. I did get that correct, actually, within months before the season started. West Brom 2, Portsmouth 1. Not quite. Actually ended up as a draw. And then look at that. Wrexham 2, Sheffield Wednesday 0. So, first half, that was absolutely plumb. It was spot on. And then, yeah, I didn't anticipate the Sheffield Wednesday comeback, which... You know, I predicted him 4-0 and then 5-0 in my official predictions in the end. So, clearly I wasn't seeing the fight back, but maybe I probably should have. So, in terms of the actual scores I predicted for this game, they are as follows. Derby 1, Bristol City 3. So, yeah, I backed Bristol City quite a bit more heavily, but yeah, and it ended up as a draw. Charlton 1, Leicester 1 was actually the same score I predicted months ago. Obviously, it didn't backfired. Hull 2, Blackburn 1. I did again back Hull, probably not as convincingly, and yeah, they lost. Swansea 1, Watford 0. So I went back on that decision to go for a draw, and because of that, I got 0 points from that game. Oh, that's disappointing. Birmingham 2, Oxford 0, despite getting a little bit closer, still not a correct outcome. I went for goals. Coventry 3, Queens Park Rangers 2. I'm only, 3 goals off in terms of the total amount of goals we saw in that game. We saw 8 goals rather than 5. Norwich 1, Middlesbrough 1. Wrong again, it was Middlesbrough who won. Preston 1, Ipswich 1, so I was right to back Preston, but I wasn't brave enough to do all 3 points, and I should have. Sheffield United 1, Mill 1, it was actually the same score I did months ago, and yeah, that didn't pay off. Southampton 2, Stoke 1, gave Stoke a bit more of a chance, but I should have given Stoke all 3 points. West Brom 1, Portsmouth 0, wrong again. Correct outcome, but incorrect result from both of those attempts. And then Wrexham 3, Sheffield Wednesday 2. I still bet for a Wrexham win, and that didn't pay off. So there's not much positivity really at this moment. And again, I think I've still got more spot on predictions in my predictions I've done 2 months ago. It's embarrassing. I am really not coveting myself in glory here. Okay, so then Game Week 4 was the last one I predicted in this video here. Went for Blackburn 1, Norwich 1. That's wrong. It was a Norwich win. Bristol City 1, Hull City 1. That is also wrong. It was Bristol City 4, Hull City 2. Ipswich, I backed them to beat Derby, and they didn't. It was 2-2. A very disappointing result again for Ipswich. They've not had a great start. Leicester 2, Birmingham 0. Not only is that correct, that's a spot on prediction. Middlesbrough 1, Sheffield United 0. Again, another spot on prediction. What is going on? Millwall 2, Wrexham 0. Yeah, definitely very wrong. Oxford 1, Coventry 1. Not correct score, but actually correct outcome. I did correctly predict that Oxford were going to get a home draw against Coventry. Preston 1, Portsmouth 1, sorry, and Preston 2. That wasn't correct in the end. QPR 2, Charlton 0. So in the end, I correctly predicted Queens Park Rangers to beat Charlton, not by the correct score though, unfortunately. Swansea to beat Sheffield Wednesday. Yes, that is correct, but again, not the correct score. Stoke City 0, West Brom 1. That's another correct score. Oh my gosh, so I got 3 correct scores here. Oh my goodness. And Watford 1, Southampton 2. Yeah, not quite. It should have been a 2-2 draw. So then now we jump into my official predictions. I went for 2-1, which was the mistake. So I lost out on all 3 points there. Middlesbrough and Sheffield United, I bottled giving Middlesbrough a win and I went for a draw instead, despite Sheffield United playing as badly as they have been. Queensborough Rangers 2, Charlton 1, close but not quite there for that score. Stoke City 2, West Brom 1, I bottled this one. I actually did have the correct idea 2 months ago, but I didn't stick with it. Blackburn 0, Norwich 2, that is an official correct result. That's an exact scoreline, so I'm really, really chuffed that I finally have another correct score on the board. Bristol City 2, Hull 0, definitely is slightly better, but again, not entirely correct. I correctly predicted Ipswich and Derby to be a draw, but the wrong type of draw. Should have been a 2-2 draw there. Millwall 3, Wrexham 0. I was really down on Wrexham in my official predictions, but this was actually Wrexham's first official win. Congratulations to them. Oxford 1, Coventry 3. Bottled this one. I actually did correctly predict a draw a couple of months ago, but I went for a Coventry win. That was wrong. It should have been a draw. Portsmouth 1, Preston North End 1. I mean, could have gone either way, but in the end, I should have been backing the home side. I was definitely tempted to, but unfortunately didn't do so in the end. Sheffield Wednesday 1, Swansea 2 was my prediction. Yeah, it wasn't as close as that, sadly. But then probably my best prediction so far, Watford 2, Southampton 2. Correct outcome by 4 goals as well. That, I think, is quite difficult to do, so I'm quite pleased at that one. That's definitely, I think, the highlight in terms of my official predictions so far. But one thing I've learned is that these predictions from months before the season started have actually turned out to be more accurate overall for my official ones. Oh my goodness. That is really, really sad. But it's about to get worse for me. I'm now going to see what horror table I have done in terms of these predictions. So yeah, if I correctly predicted all of those games, this was the table I was expected to see after Game Week 4. Oh my goodness. Look at that bottom 3. So, Sheffield Wednesday bottom, probably not a shock. Stoke City, 23rd. 2 points. I'm only the 7 points worse off for that one there. Blackburn with 2 points. That's wrong. They should be on 3. And then Sheffield Wednesday on 1 point is actually correct. I did correctly predict that Sheffield Wednesday will not be pointless after the first 4 game weeks. So maybe a bit of a good prediction there. I don't know. Watford are way too low as well. 21st. I mean, that is tragic to say the least. Preston, they picked up 2 amazing wins against Ipswich and Leicester, and I've only predicted them to have 3 points and down in 20th. That is really poor. Charlton 19th is actually not too bad, 4 points, so they picked up 3 and then they got 1. So I actually think that's actually quite a good prediction for me, because they actually have lost twice, they have drawn once, and they've won once. So quite good for me, actually. Wrexham, so they have pretty much matched that as well. So they've won once, they've drawn once against Sheffield Wednesday, and then they lost their first 2. That's pretty much it. I mean, obviously, the outcomes weren't particularly correct, but in terms of the 4 games in total, that's actually correct. Derby, they're still looking for their first win, so I know that is immediately wrong. But they have picked up more than 1 draw, to be fair. They've got at least 2 now on the board. Portsmouth, so they have picked up at least 1 win, which I did correctly predict. In fact, they have 2 wins on their hands, so that's seen them near the top part of the table. So probably underestimated Portsmouth a bit. Hull with 4 points. So they picked up, I think, 4 points actually. So they drew against Coventry and then they won their game against Oxford. Their poor defeat against Blackburn, of course, and then losing to Bristol City. Yeah, so I correctly predicted they'd be on 4 points. Maybe just not by the correct placement. Oxford are way too high. I predicted them to have only one defeat. That's actually quite generous from Oxford, I think. So, yeah, I was a little bit wrong there. They should definitely be lower. And there's Middlesbrough. Look at them. They are all the way down in 13th. Despite me correctly predicting that they beat Sheffield United by 1-0. Because the other games, the 3 other games, I gave them no chance in. They're the only side with a 100% start so far. So, yeah, that's a big error in my ways. Norwich, with 1 win so far, they've actually picked up 2 wins so far this season in both of their away games. So that's a little bit wrong. Swansea in 11th. Nice. I wouldn't say that's particularly terrible. Millwall 10th. I actually think, again, a bit generous. I mean, the fact that I've actually got them as undefeated at this point, yeah, that's a little bit wrong. Bristol City 9th is actually not too bad from me. I think they've done decently well at the start of the season, and actually it nearly matches their exact record as well, because they won their first game, they drew the second game, and the third game they also drew, and then they won their fourth one. So actually I'm 1 point worse there, but not too far away from Bristol City. Coventry 8th. So thinking about what they've been doing, they are also unbeaten so far this season with 2 draws and 2 wins. Again, 1 point off for correctly predicting their record. Birmingham 7th, so that's pretty much where they're at, Birmingham, at the moment, actually. So that's a pretty outstanding prediction for me. I mean, 4 games in, that's a really not a huge sample size, isn't it? But 2 wins I correctly predicted them to have, and 1 defeat at this point, which I also correctly predicted them to have. And yeah, I've literally matched their exact record. Again, not by a game-by-game basis, but overall in their first 4 games. So that's actually the correct record. Sheffield United, though, oh dear me, 7 points. I need to take away 7 points because they're 0 points. They're on 0. It's terrible. That's a terrible shout for me. Queen's Park Rangers are definitely very high up as well, way too high. They only picked up their first win in their last game before the international break against Charlton. So yeah, they should be boosted quite a fair bit lower. And so should Ipswich. I mean, look at them. I'm predicting them to win 3 out of 4. Oh, come on, Alex. That is way too optimistic even by your standards. They have that, you know, probably one of the toughest opening run of games on paper. So I should have thought of that they would struggle, and yeah, I don't know why I didn't. Southampton, I've gone for 3 wins and 1 defeat, so they have lost at least 1 game this season, so that's a pretty good prediction there. But actually I have predicted them to have too many points in the end, so they've won Wrexham, of course, drew Ipswich, drew Watford, and lost to Stoke. So actually, only 5 points. So, yeah, again, I'm being really, really generous to Southampton and Ipswich. Both should be quite a fair bit lower with lower points tallies. I jumped ahead in the video now to see what the top 2 was. And actually, I am onto something a little bit here. So, Leicester aren't first. However, their points tally is a very, very important thing to look at. I predicted them to have 3 wins in their opening 4 games. They beat Charlton, they beat Sheffield Wednesday, and they recently beat Birmingham. So I did correctly predict that they'd win 3 out of their opening 4 games. The problem comes with me keeping them unbeaten. They did actually lose their 4th game, and that was Preston. So points tally wise, nearly got a spot on with Leicester actually, and obviously with the ongoing discussions of the points deductions, who knows what sort of impact that's going to have, if any. And West Brom 2nd. You know, again, I think that's actually a really good prediction. I think they're actually sitting in 2nd at the moment, West Brom. So that is, yeah, really, really good from me. So they've beaten, you know, Blackburn in their opening game, they beat Wrexham, then they drew their 3rd game against Portsmouth, and then they beat Stoke. So I've actually matched their record again perfectly, just not with the correct game. So looking at this, I'm not too upset with this. I mean, Sheffield United, Queen's Park Rangers, I mean, basically the top 6. You know, 3rd to 6th, the playoff teams, I've completely mucked up. But if you take that portion of the table out of it, I actually think that's actually not too bad of a job. I mean, yeah, Middlesbrough and Stoke, again, needed to be pushed up quite a fair bit and get rid of the playoff teams. But other than that, I actually think I did not too of a bad job predicting a table from months before the season was going to start. So I actually think, I can give myself a small pat on the back. I actually thought I did okay, actually. Just like that, that is the video. I think I'm going to split the video into 2 parts, actually, just from recording. So for the first part, I'm reacting to all of my table reactions. In the second part, you're going to see me predict the next 5 games. I don't know how I'm going to do that, so I'll figure that out. If you guys did enjoy, please smash the like button, please do hit the subscribe button and share too. It really does help the growth of this channel. I do appreciate all of the support. Thank you guys once again so much for watching. You guys are legendary if you're enjoying this video, and as always, I'll see you guys soon. Take care, everyone.